Now, I like the big budget movies just as much as anybody. In fact, that was a problem in film school, me liking the big budget movies. I think Iron Man in particular was a point of contention because they're entertaining. They're fun. Munch some popcorn, or in my case, go to Alamo Draft House and get some chips and queso, and just enjoy a nice story. It doesn't have to be deep. It doesn't have to be meaningful. I like some big budget Hollywood films. But every now and again, I have to be true to my film school roots and enjoy some independent cinema. And that's what this one is. This is Dancer, Texas, population 81.
Dancer's isolated location makes it the perfect spot for the weary traveler.
And one hell of a boring spot to grow up in.
All right, y'all gonna let me finish this or not?
I actually saw this movie in theaters when it came out. I think I was in high school, maybe? And my parents dragged me to go see this movie. I say dragged. I don't use that word because I didn't know anything about it. I guess my dad had read reviews in the newspaper or something and wanted to go see it. My dad's always been a big fan of Texas culture, which is nice of him, not having been from Texas originally. I saw it once in the theaters when I was a teenager. And parts of it stuck with me to this day. It hasn't been easy to track down. Even on Amazon, I had to track down a used DVD. But I've always wanted to see it again. And recently I was able to, which was great. I actually went and watched it with my mother. Because we had a little independent movie day. We watched the movie Mother by Albert Brooks, which is kind of entertaining. It's kind of worth a look. And then we watched Dancer, Texas. And I like Dancer, Texas. Like a lot of independent films, it's a very slow burn. The entire movie takes place over the course of one weekend. It's set in the very small town of Dancer, Texas, population 81, as the title might suggest. And it focuses on 4 boys who are graduating from high school. The graduating class is 7 kids. And this is 4 of them. It's 4 boys who have vowed, ever since they were very young, that as soon as they graduate high school, they are hopping on a bus to Los Angeles, and they're going to really live. Because in this small town in Texas, where everybody knows everybody's name, one of the 4 boys in particular, but the other 3 kind of go with it, feels very trapped. Like this town just wants him to never leave, and he wants to get out there and experience life, and see things, and do things. And the other 3 kind of go along with it. They're not near as passionate as he is, but they're friends. They're in it together. So they graduate on like a Friday or a Saturday, and the first bus out of town comes Monday morning. So the film follows the course of their 4 lives over that weekend. Now, it's set in Texas. It's set in a very small town in Texas. But apart from a couple of elements, the occasional person dressed up in Western wear, one of the families being heavy into the oil industry, I think it really works for just about any small town. Now, I say that being so inundated in Texas culture that other cultures are weird to me. Fun story, fun side story, because this blew my mind. For those of you who've never lived in Texas, things are spread out. We got lots of space down here, and we live bigger in Texas and all that. Things are spread out. That's just how it is, and we don't have a lot of public transit. But I was visiting, I dated a girl from New Orleans when I was in college, and one visit with her parents, obviously I'm trying to impress my girlfriend's parents who live in New Orleans. They came back from the store and they're like, oh gosh, we forgot the milk, and I volunteer. I'll go get milk. I don't mind. I got my car. I'll hop in the car. I'll go get milk. And they said something that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life. They said, oh no, the store's all the way on the other side of town. It would take you 15 minutes. It takes me 15 minutes to get anywhere. If I wanted to go to the gas station, that's about 15 minutes. Everything's at least 15 minutes away. So it's possible that when I say that the film is not too Texan, I could just be oblivious to a lot of it. But I think that it could speak to any kind of small town experience. Now, odds are most of you watching this have never had this small a town experience, so you're not going to be able to really argue the point with me much anyway. But it's a fun movie. Like I said, it's a slow burn. It's an examination of these 4 characters' lives and their motivations for leaving and their reasons for staying. The entire town pretty much enters into a bet as to how many of the kids are really going to leave. 1, 2, 3, all 4. The lower numbers are the higher odds. So each of the 4 is faced with temptation to stay. Reasons that they should focus on their life here as opposed to going to start a new life. And so all 4 characters, for different reasons, are torn between going out and starting a new life for themselves, as they promised their friends they would do, and responsibilities, opportunities, what have you, here in Dancer, Texas. And it's a very fun character study. I like it a lot. It's a very entertaining movie, and the ending feels very satisfying.
I wonder what it'd be like if we grew up in a normal-sized town. I wonder if we'd all be such good friends. Yeah. I wonder if we'd even hang out together. It's not like we got a whole lot in common.
I want to encourage you to seek this movie out, which is why, unlike a WTF Cinema, where I give you scene-by-scene breakdown, I'm not doing that. There's almost nobody that you'd recognize in this movie. One of the main guys, when you see his face in the footage that I'm showing at least, you'll probably be like, oh, I kind of know that guy. I've seen him in stuff. I don't know what, but I've seen him in stuff. I don't think anybody in this movie was a star or became one later. But if you ever happen to be browsing through a used movie bin somewhere and happen to see a copy of Dancer, Texas, Population 81, I do recommend you grab it. There is one thing in this movie that I like because you never see it in movies. There is, and I'm going to have to argue both sides of this, but there is a platonic relationship between a boy and a girl. And you almost never see that. Usually a boy and girl friendship has somebody pining on one side or the other, either secretly or openly. But one of the main characters has been friends with this girl his entire life. And it's the main character. Well, I say main. It's the one that's really desperate to leave. He feels like the main, but it is evenly split between the 4. To the point where, like, he climbs up her terrace to knock on her window to talk to her one morning. They go out walking and swinging, but there's never any romance between the 2 of them. They're just friends. There is a scene near the end when he starts to struggle with, should I stay or should I go? And he points out to her, I guess I could stay, and we could get married. And she says, no, you're a brother to me. You're not going to marry me, but... And I know that kind of goes against what I said earlier about the lack of pining, but from his point of view, it's not voiced as if it was a desire that he's been harboring. It's more like his assumption of just how things go. If I have to settle for this life, I suppose that means settling for marrying you. He doesn't mean it in an insulting way, and she doesn't take it that way. It's just, like I said, his assumption. I guess this is what life is. I guess we'll be married. Because we've been friends forever. And she says no, and that's the end of it. There's not a big fight. There's not... And I like that. You very rarely in movies really get to see a platonic friendship between a boy and a girl. It doesn't happen. So I was really happy when I watched this movie and I saw, hey, they're not playing up a romance between these 2. The only mention of a romance is, so I guess we get married? Nah, that was it. And no wild, frayed emotions about that. And I like that. I have a lot of platonic female friends that I'm never going to marry or desire to. And it's nice to see that represented in film, which it almost never is. So I've probably focused on this point a little too long. But Dancer, Texas, Population 81. If you see it, it would probably be a couple bucks in a bargain bin. Grab it. Anyway, that's all I've got. Thanks for stopping by.
Hi, I'm Luke Bryan, 2-time CMA Entertainer of the Year. If I ever learn how to read, I'm going to read The Great Platypus Caper by Jeff Hillary because I believe in supporting fine literature. I'm Luke Bryan. Hi.